Good morning to everyone. Today is Chaf Hei Menachem Av, and we are beginning with the review questions that Sarit prepared, Baruch Hashem, for the last part of Ois Chaf Ches of chapter 28, and Be'eretz Hashem will go through the questions and begin chapter Chaf Tes 29 in the Maimar itself. So Sarit will read the questions and we will try to come up with the answers.
The first question is, what was the overall subject of the shir?
I can come up with few topics, but generally we are talking about the relation between Oros and Kelim of Zohar Atzilus. The second question is,
what are the Omek, Rochav, and Orech within Atzilus?
Okay, so that leads to this, because we are talking about the way the spheros are in Atzilus. So the emphasis here is on Zohar Atzilus. If you look at the beginning of chapter 27, Chav Zayin, we already discussed beforehand, the prakim before Chav Zayin, about Av Va'em and Atzilus and their relation with Keser, with Arich Anpin, in various manners. Now we are focusing on Zohar Atzilus, the 10 spheros, the way they are in Zohar Atzilus. And really, Zohar Atzilus represents really Atzilus in the sense of Omek and Rochav and Orech. Because Omek, the principle, this is I'm not translating here the Maimar. This is something that I suggested, a kind of meditation that I suggested last time, hoping that I'm not making a mistake. And that is that you can view the 10 spheros of Atzilus, which divided to 3, in terms of Chabad, Chagas, and Nehi, correlated to Omek, Rochab, and Orech. Now, when you talk about, so in that case, the Chabad of Atzilus, Chochmah Bin Adas, the Moichin, the intellect of Atzilus, the brain of Atzilus, would be Omek, and the Rochab, the width, the body of Atzilus will be Rochab, will be Yazor, will be the middle of Atzilus, and then the Orech, the length, which means the way, the ability to apply all the energy of Atzilus is the Orech, is Nehi. So we are focusing now on Zohar Atzilus, as the Rebbe taught us on the beginning of Perek Chav Zayin, 27. And that's like the Rochav of Atzilus. And that's really Atzilus itself. The Rochav is the body of everything. The Omek is the way it relates to its source. The Orech is the way it wants to apply itself. But the Rochav is the thing itself. Where are the Oros of Atzilus coming from? So the Oros of Atzilus come from the lowest levels of Adam Kadmon or the Ma'atzil, from the Oisios, from the most concrete aspect of Adam Kadmon, of the sphere of. And that's exactly the next chapter is saying, that the main meditation, when we are learning about all the Kelim and the Oros, and then how the Oros create a change in the Kelim, and even about this boinenus of Mis Abus HaOros Naso HaKelim, that from the thickening of the light, the Kelim are coming about, which means the Kelim from that perspective are when the lights take on Yeshus. Even that is not the main goal of this Isboinenus, or the main depth of this Isboinenus. The main depth of this Isboinenus is to understand that really the main point, I don't want to take long because we will learn inside, is to understand that they both come from the same source. Sorry, next question.
Okay. How does this work? So that, in terms of like what we were saying about the source of the Urus and Atzilus and everything. So how does this work in terms of the names Av, Sag, Ma, and Ban? Like basically, I was thinking, like, what do these names represent? And,
In Atzilus, the interaction, there is a merge between the Urus and the Kalim in such a way that the Kalim affect Hagbala in the limitation in the lights.
Right.
tell me if I'm getting it right, is, when we talk about the Otiot Ma'atzil, so then we have like Av is a certain like name. So that's sort of made up of letters, and it's a certain combination of letters of the Yud K Vav K in a certain frame. And then the way that that manifests in the world of Atzilus is as Chochmah of Atzilus, And then the same thing for Sag, it's a different combination of the letters of the Ma'atzil on that letter and that level, and then that manifests as Bina within Atzilus and so forth, with that.
Very good. Yeah. Okay, so that's so Sarid was talking about the mechanism of the transition between the spheres, of the evolving of the spheres from the oisios of the Ma'atzil, of the emanator, which is Adam Kadmon, and the spheres in Atzilus. And the same, how they manifest in Atzilus. How do the spheres that are manifesting through the names, through the oisios, Ab, Sag, Ma, and Ban of Atzilus, how do they evolve from their source in Adam Kadmon? So, what are these? We already said in the previous questions, we already clarified that the spheres of Atzilus are a revelation, like Gilui HaElem, from their source in Adam Kadmon. From where? From the lowest aspect of Adam Kadmon itself, which is the oisios, or Malchus of Malchus, the oisios of Adam Kadmon. What are these oisios? Basically represented by four of them. Four oisios, which they are a representation of the numerical manifestation of Shem Havaya. So how does it go? The Ma'atzil, the emanator itself, right, is Ored Sof, which is represented by Shem Havaya, Yud K Vav K. We know that Shem Havaya, when you spell it out, each letter of it fully, Yud would be Yud Vav Dalet, and Hey, now you could be different ways to write a Hey, to spell out a Hey. It could be Hey Hey, it could be Hey Aleph, it could be Hey Yud. So these different spelling out of the names of Havaya create these four names of Ab, Sag, Ma, and Ban. Ab is 72, Sag is 63, Ma is 45, and Ban is 52. Now, these shemos, or these oisios of Adam Kadmon become the source of the manifestation of these oisios in Atzilus. How so? Shem Ab, which is the way Hey is spelled with the Yud, and Vav also with the Yud, Vav Yud Vav. Yud represents Chochmah. In Atzilus, Shem Ab will be manifesting as Chochmah. Shem Sag, the 63, will be manifesting as Bina, and then Shem Ma is the Midos of Atzilus, and Shem Ban, Malchus of Atzilus. First time that the Oros of the spheros that until now were Blima, without any whatness, any Yeshus, this is the first time they are taking on a Yeshus. They are becoming their own Metzius, so to speak.
Right.
We will learn, by the way, when we compare, by the way, I want you to have in mind And that the Rebbe will say it again in this parak also, maybe the Rabbi Hillel parakshur, the parakshur. We have to remember that when we compare Atzilus to Adam Kadmon, so it's like Gashmius to Ruchnius, in comparison, because the euros are invested in the Kelim and change. They are changing their mahus, they're changing that they have a limitation, they're not bligbul, and so on. They change tremendously. So many times when Atzilus is compared to the Ma'atzil, and the way the spirits are there in the Ma'atzil, Atzilus is like Gashmius. It's like a yesh, how the spirits first time are not blima anymore, but so to speak, and they have a yeshus to them. They're still blima, but they have a yeshus to them. But you have to remember, don't forget, that there is no real yesh in Atzilus. It's just the possibility of yesh. Because in Atzilus, him and his Eros and him and his Kelim are still one. So everything is just there's no real concrete yesh in Atzilus. That begins in Bria. Means that if it will come out of Atzilus, it will be yesh. And the same thing in terms of time. There's no time yet in Atzilus, but with what is called Seder Zmanim. It's the order of time. It's not real physical time yet. That begins in Bria. Next question.
Yeah, okay. What is the relationship between Oros and Kalim?
The lowest level of the Oros the Keli becomes the highest level of the Keli.
Exactly.
So it's very interesting, like how does the neshama, the lowest level of the neshama, now becomes the highest level of the guf?
Yes.
Because the light that you bring in, the aura that you bring in, will now become the physical guf of the child.
Very good. That's why it's so important to have the right thought.
What is another term given for Oros and Kalim?
Okay, Chomer and Surah. That there is a Chomer Hiyuli. We look at Chomer that, first there is form, and then the form shapes the Chomer. But there is a Chomer Hiyuli. There is a matter Hiyuli that precedes the Surah, the form.
Which aspect of letters becomes what aspect of light?
Okay, we
said that, yeah. Is O the original source of Kalim?
Okay, that I think I related to this, but it wasn't written in the Maimar yet. That will be coming up this chapter.
No,
the answer is knowing the source. Or did God create the Keli? Keli has its own source that even precedes the Istalshelus of Or, and we'll talk about it now with Hashem.
Why do humans freak out when they see blood?
That's from the lowest aspect of the Or comes the highest aspect of the Kli, which means where the Or and Kli and Keli meet, where they merge. So we have one of the examples is the blood, because the blood is the place where the soul, the vital soul, merges with the body. So that's why, and specifically in the steam of the blood, which is the coarsest, the most gashmius, so to speak, aspect of the soul, merges with the most ruchnius aspect of the body, which is the steam that comes up from the blood. There they merge. And that's why when a person loses a lot of, or sees blood, or loses a lot of blood, it creates an emotional reaction of any kind, because the life of a person depends on the merging of the soul with the body, and that happens in the blood. And therefore we cannot afford to lose big amounts of blood in order to stay alive.
What is a full spira?
Or in Keli, you have a potential of Gilu. Without Keli, we have no Gilu. Keser has no Gilu. Keser is dark, because Keser is Or without a Keli. Pirus Abatzilus Our Oros merged in Keli. And the Keli in this case, even though we always look at Keli as something that limits the light, but it is only the Keli that enables Gilui, that enables revelations, that enables Amshacha milemala lamata. Without the Keli, the Or would not be Nimshach lamata, not be revealed. And that's why at the end it says that Vekrinan lon Yud Sfirot is like it towards the end of the chapter Chaf Chet. Vekrinan lon Yud Sfirot, we are quoting the Kabbalah that says that he called them, in Atzilus, he called these powers 10 Sfirot, Tikkunim, he established 10 Tikkunim and he called them Yud Sfirot, which means now we're talking Oros Bekelim. Why? Why Kelim? Why Oros Bekelim? There were Oros before, as Tarid taught us, Oros of the Ma'asir, that have no revelation. Oh, now we need Oros Bekelim, full Tiros of Atzilus. Why? Le'achaza'a, le'anhaga, which means to reveal himself, lachazot, like Shabbos Chazon. A vision, to be able to be revealed, and le'anhaga, and to conduct, to lead, like manhig is the leader, to conduct the world. And that's the purpose of Kelim. They bring Elokus down, they bring the Or down.
What does the Keli do to the Or? And we said two things that it does to the Or.
Right? One is changes its nature.
Yeah.
Like the power of seeing, when it's invested in the Keli of the eye, it changes the spiritual power of seeing to a physical power of seeing. The second change is Agbala. There is a limit now in the Koach, how much you can see. Even once it changes to Re'i Agashmis, then there is a limitation how far and how well and how far you can see.
Yeah. And then we said, okay, so how does this process manifest to bring it down into the mashal? We brought a mashal of a person's intellect, meaning their power of seichel. So, how do we see this process manifest in terms of the power of seichel? So like the power of seichel is sort of like, your IQ or whatever you want to call it. And then it comes down into an idea, which on the one hand, an idea is very different than IQ. And it's also very limited because it's just like one idea and it's not like a million different things. And then we said, okay, what is this? We brought this mashal of the person's intellect. What is this actually a mashal for? It's a mashal for a very specific power, which is the power of Chochmah, versus the Koch Maskil, I guess.
Yes. Power of Chochmah, that's the sphere that dominates Atzilus. Why is it important to say?
Because the Chochmah is like the leader of everything. Then we said there's actually three general Kelim.
In what way Chochmah is the leader?
Everything comes from the brain. Everything comes from the Chochmah.
Yeah, that's the beginning of awareness.
And everything runs through there. Yeah, so then we said, but in addition to Chochmah or whatever, there's actually three general Kelim. It's different than the Or. There's three general Kelim.
Different neshamas of different levels of Oros of Atzilus.
So there's the Moach, the Lev, and the Kavod. So the Moach hosts the Chochmah Bina Dat. The Lev hosts the first 6 meters.
Which is the neshama.
Yeah, right. And then the next one is the Ruach, and then the next one is the Nefesh.
Kavod is Nehi.
There's no Keli for Malchus then?
Malchus is how they all manifest. The Keli is the mouth or the reproductive organ. It's already the creativity in action.
Okay, what is Yeshus Ha'or?
There is Ishtalshelus in Or. Mm-hmm. And if you want to describe Ishtalshelus in Or, you can express it through the spiros in the Or. So the highest, most sublime aspect of the Or is the way the Or is relating to its source. That's the Chabad. That's the neshama of the Or. And then you have, I'm not talking about Chaya Yechida. That's we discussed that they don't have a Keli. And then the lower level of the light, the way it becomes, you can look at it as we began this discussion today of Omek, Rochel, and Orech. So the higher spheros are so sublime because they are in relation to the source. So they are very sublime Orech. The middle spheros of the Orech are the Orech themselves, the way they become a Metzius, so to speak. They have their own personality. That's like the Rochav, the Sphira itself. And then, and that host in Atzilus, that hosts the Midos, the Ruach. And then the lower aspect, this is Ishtalshelus in the Or itself. And the lowest aspect of the Or is the applicable aspect of the Or. And that's the Nahi, the Nahim. The Kaveh, that's the Nefesh of the Or. So you see that there's a process of the thickening of the light from more sublime and less concrete and less formulated to more and more concrete, until eventually it will show up to the Keli. It will show up from a potential of IQ and a potential of intellect to a certain concept. And that's where the creativity happens, the merge of the light with the Keli. The Yeshus of the Or is the Malchus of the Or, or the Nehim of the Or. The lower aspect in the Ishtalshelus inside the Or itself. So the Yeshus of the Or, the more the spheros go down, the aspect of the more the Or is Mishtalshel, devolves to lower, from its Moichin to its middles to its Nehib, to its applicable aspect, the more Yeshus it gets. It becomes more and more of a Yeshus because it becomes more and more concrete, from a potential to closer to actual. That's like in the Koach HaMaskil, there is a difference between Pele and Aleph. There is Ishtalshelus in Koach HaMaskil from Pele, which is an infinite source of the ability to produce infinite ideas and to be expressed in the intellect altogether. There is a Ishtalshelus now all the way down, that Or of Koach HaMaskil becomes more and more concrete, that now it becomes an Aleph. It's now a potential of one insight that will show up in Chochmah, from an infinite ocean of potential of insights. So you see that there is Ishtalshelus in the Or itself, and the lower it is, the more Yeshus it has.
Why are the Kalim called Tikkunim? It seems at first glance that the Kalim are sort of like had to do a compromise in the light. That it's like the light is this beautiful infinite thing, and then along comes the Kali and kind of like, ruins its splendor a little bit. But if anything, the party pooper, exactly. But we actually say it's a tikkun, which is like that it's correcting something. But we also said that the tikkunim actually means jewelry, which I think is so cool, and it makes me think about, I don't know if we talked about this here or I just thought about it myself, that like in Japanese culture, when a pottery breaks, then they put it back together and they put it together with gold, and then it like makes it into like an ornament so that like when it breaks, it actually improves and it gets better.
It reveals a new light of art.
Yeah. So that's what's happening with the auras is actually that the Kalim come about, and it's not like, yes, okay, they're limiting the light, but the reason why they're limiting the light is actually in order to reveal the light and, bring out its beauty, which it wouldn't be able to do without the Kalim.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And it makes us really learn to appreciate more and more the Maila of the Keli. We are all excited about Or because we like the Or and the inspiration, but the Keli is so, and that is giving us more appreciation of Olam Hazeh Agashmi altogether, Aguf. That this generation is the time where the Maila of the Guf will be revealed, that the Shoresh HaKelim will be revealed more.
Like it can make you feel better about mistakes, life is full of mistakes. Instead of feeling down about it, we could actually take it as an opportunity to life can become more beautiful through the mistakes that we make.
There was somebody interviewed a very rich man, and he asked him, what do you appreciate most in your journey of becoming a rich businessman? And he answered, my mistakes, my failures, because from them I learned the most how to become rich.
This relates to the term blima in the 10 spheros. Without the kalim, the auras are, so to speak, nothing. Like it's blima.
They don't have any whatness. Haftes. Okay? That's page 258 in the Shaar Hayichud itself, in the Maimar. Ach, גם הנה בהסבוננוס, באורוס וכלים דאצילוס דרך פרט יותר. As you are reflecting, studying and reflecting the oros and the kelim and the relation between them in Atzilus in a more particular way, and you see also we were misborn on the fact that Miss Abus ha'oros nasu ha'kelim, that from the thickening of the light, the kelim came about, and so on. All these meditations in the details, and we will go more and more into the details of the spheros of Atzilus. And now we are, discussing relatively more b'derech prat, in a more specific way, the relation between the oros and the kelim, the lights and the vessels of Atzilus. Ein klalus ve'ikar ha'mechuvan bahem, rak be'inyan ze. There is nothing else that you should have in mind in all these in all this study of the Oros and Kelim of Atzilus. The main goal, the main purpose of this is Boinanus, and the main thing to have in mind when you are reflecting on the spheros of Atzilus is only, rak b'inyan ze, is only in one matter, one point. What is that point? Ve'iu v'chayoi chad v'garmoi chad. That him, which means Or and Sof, and Chayoi and his light are one, and Garmoi and his Kelim are one. This is the main goal of all this study and his boinenus of the spheros of Atzilus, is to understand, please mute yourself, Fegi, I don't know if you're muted, is to understand the fact that him and his lights and his kelim are one. Shebe'emet, that in truth, even though there is Iu v'chayo echad ve'iu v'garmo echad, that as the Zohar states, that him and his lights are one and him and his vessels are one, so we kind of make a distinction between the yichud of him and his lights and the yichud of him and his kelim. Nevertheless, be'emet, in truth, ein nefresh, there is no difference bein iu v'chayo echad le'iu v'garmo echad. There is no difference between the oneness of him, Or and Sof, the Ma'atzil, with his lights, and the oneness of the Ma'atzil of Or and Sof, of the emanator, with his vessels. דגם שהאורוס הן בלימה, והכלים הן בבחינת יש חולו, even though, as we know, Oros and Kelim, there's a big difference. Oros are blima, right? As Sarit just stated, without any yeshus, any whatness, they are nothing, so to speak. They have no yeshus, they are blima. Va'kelim bebchinas yesh, and the kelim are in a manner of Yeshus, of a Metzius. So it looks like a big difference, how both of them can be one with Or Ein Sof, one with the infinite. There should be a big difference. No. Mikol Makom. Nevertheless, Mitzad Atzmus HaMa'atzil, from the aspect of the emanator himself, Harei Asa Shoresh Li'ishabus HaKelim, Kodem She'asa Shoresh Li'ishabus HaOros. The way it comes about from the emanator, from his perspective, he made a source, the Ma'atzil, the emanator, Or Ein Sof, made a root and a source for the coming about of Kelim, of vessels, Kodem, before he made a source and a root, or Shoresh is a root really, or a source, Li'ishabus HaOros, before he made a source for the coming about of lights. So Hashem made the source of Kelim before he made the source of lights. The Ma. So we said that, but we said that Mis'abus HaOr Na'asa Keli. From the or that the Keli comes about, from the thickening and the coarsening and the concretization of the light comes the Keli. That is the way we see it. That's the way it comes in Seder Ishtalshelus. So the Ma shemis abus haor na'asa keli, that which we discussed in the previous chapter, that from the thickening of the light, the keli comes about. Harei kadam laze atzmo shoresh umakor. Preceded it. This is the way the keli is revealed. But before that, before the ishtalshelus is the or that got to the bottom of the light, and therefore the thickening of the light, and therefore the keli, the yeshus of the keli, but preceded this whole seder of how the keli is revealed, comes the shoresh and the makor, the root and the source of the keli. That came before. The mashemis abus haor na'asa keli, that from the thickening of the light, the keli came about. Kadam leze atzmo shoresh umakor. That was preceded with the source of the keli. What is the source called? Vehu shenikra chomer hapashut. It's the simple, formless matter, or chomer hayuli, or as Kabbalah calls it, the hiyuli chomer, the potential matter, shekodem letzura, that precedes form. This is what the Rebbe will introduce now, that really the shoresh of the keli preceded the light and the devolvement of light to take on Yeshus of the keli. So the revelation of the keli is from this Abu Sa'or, but the shoresh of the keli preceded that, and that is Chomer Hayuli. Now, next time in Mirz Hashem, the Rebbe will explain it, this idea. Emphasis here, the change of the order. That even though from our perspective, the light precedes the keli, right? Because only when the light thickens, then we have a keli. But from the ma'atzil, the shores of the keli came first. So it's like turns over, like a slinky. But this is not the end of the discussion. The end is both. The oros, which represents the power of godliness to reveal itself, and the kelim, which is to represent the power of godliness to hold itself back, they all come equally from Atzmus. It's like the discussion of the Chachamim, what came first, Shamayim or Aretz, the heaven or the earth? One say Shamayim Nasu, because that's from our perspective. Heaven came first. Heaven is higher than the earth. Another perspective is V'machshava Eretz Kadma LeShamayim. And there is another opinion that says they both came together. So anyhow, the point of all this will be to show that both the power behind Eros, which is the power of God to manifest and to reveal himself, to extend godliness, to extend itself and reveal itself and manifest itself, comes from exactly from the same source of his power to hold himself back and to limit in order to reveal himself.